Good morning. It's Wednesday, September 29th. President Joe Biden and the Democrats are pushing to raise capital gains taxes. The proposals seem to be radical and out of step with the treatment of capital gains in other high-income nations. But I don't think we should worry about other high-income nations. We should do what's good for the United States. And I'm here to say that raising the capital gains tax is not necessarily good for the United States. Now in this country, 56% of the population owns stock of some kind. And most of those people earn over $100,000 a year. Very wealthy will own about 86% of the stock in this. And I believe that in this tax situation, we are trying to raise money to pay for the infrastructure. We cannot afford to lose investors. There are many small investors who really are taking a chance with their money. And if you want to tax them at a high rate, they stop investing. That will definitely affect the entrepreneurship and opportunities that exist in this country. So you don't want to cut down on any portion of the investment money that goes on in this country. Having said that, I view this tax as detrimental to raising the money that you want for infrastructure. But I do believe that every family in this country should contribute something toward our infrastructure. Infrastructure is not something that just the wealthy use. Now, I'm not against the wealthy paying more than those who really can't afford it, but I think everybody should contribute. And I think there are better ways than messing around with the capital gains tax to raise money. For instance, during World War II, we raised a lot of money by selling stamps for the war fight and by selling war bonds. And you got a nice war bond, and then in 10 or 15 or 20 years it was worth, I'll give an example. You could buy a bond for $18.75, for $25 bond. And at the end of 10 or 15 years you got your $25. Why don't we have infrastructure bonds as a way to pay? I think everybody should contribute. Certainly if you look at some of the bonds that people collect nowadays, like municipal bonds, they pay no taxes on the municipal bonds, on the income derived from municipal bonds. Not tax that income. And then, of course, maybe we should have some floor limit that people must pay. Say $2 a week. Everybody in this country is responsible for paying $2 a week. So if you're a family of 5, then your family owes us $10. And then we should have a situation where there is nobody in this country that doesn't pay tax. Well, if you have an income tax and you're a responsible person and you don't pay taxes, you should still pay something for infrastructure. And maybe it's based upon the $2 a week that I mentioned or something. Everybody in this country is responsible for infrastructure. We all use the roads, we use the bridges, we use the tunnels. We use a lot of things that are covered in infrastructure. So even if you don't have a car, you're still using the sidewalks or the public transportation. So it's imperative that everybody chips in for this battle that we are doing right now. And so raising taxes on the wealthy and some stuff like that is not necessarily the best way to go about it. Everybody should feel that they have a part in this fight. This is like World War II. The other wars that we have had have just been a waste of money and a waste of time, and we should have never been in those wars. But this is like World War II. We are fighting for the existence of this country. Let's look at the tax code for some reason or other. Let's not worry about the rates as much as the exemptions and the tax avoidance things that exist in our tax code. That's where we could make a lot of money. We have a lot of exemptions and a lot of tax avoidance that's written into our tax code. They are still on the books. So why is it that corporations and wealthy individuals can make tons of money? Let's look at Amazon. They made $11 billion. They made $11 billion and didn't pay a penny in taxes. Now that's what I would call a shanda. Every corporation, every entity that exists in this country, even if they don't have a legitimate tax bill, in a sense that they've done everything correct. I am not saying that any of these companies have done anything illegal. If they have done everything correct and they don't have to pay income taxes, they should still have to pay an infrastructure tax. And you know, if you look at Amazon and you look at Greyhound and you look at other public transportation methodologies, why should they be exempt? Why should the MTA not pay its fair share from the fares? Maybe everybody who rides public transportation should pay a little bit extra for the infrastructure, right? Why do we want to tax people with a congestion tax to drive in Lower Manhattan? Maybe that money should all go for infrastructure. So there are many ways to collect this capital gains is not the best place. And restricting our efforts to the very wealthy and the corporations is not necessarily the best way to go either. We are all going to benefit from a good infrastructure. And whether it's the physical infrastructure or what I will call the social infrastructure, all of those things are necessary. And this plan has to include all of that. So the $3.5 trillion has to be paid for. But I'm not sure that our government has a way of really collecting this money fairly. And by fairly, I mean that nobody should be exempt from paying an infrastructure tax. Whatever it is, contribution, let's call it a contribution. Because even if you have no tax bill, you should be willing to contribute to the infrastructure. That's all I have for this morning. And I hope that some of this has sunk in and makes sense to you. Bye. I'll see you in the morning.